Well, here's a treat. Shares in Marvell Technology rallying sharply on news of a new partnership with none other than NVIDIA this morning, which includes an investment by NVIDIA of $2 billion into the company. And joining us now exclusively, NVIDIA's founder and CEO, Jensen Huang, and Marvell Chairman and CEO, Matt Murphy. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show. I'm going to start with you, Jensen, because this is a remarkable deal. I'm trying to understand, if I get this right, the customers will have a level of choice that is currently not available, which could mean great things for your network portion of your business.
The AI inflection point has arrived. We're going through a platform transition. All of the world's data centers are going to be replaced with this new form of doing computing we call accelerated computing. Of course, the vast majority of the data centers would be powered by NVIDIA CUDA GPUs. However, for customers who would like to also have specialized versions that they build themselves, we're extending our architecture, starting with the networking architecture, basically the entire chassis of our Grace Blackwell and Vera Rubin systems. And we're going to extend that through NVLink and connect it to Marvell. And together, we'll be able to address the customers whether they would like to use all NVIDIA gear or they would like to augment our NVIDIA gear with their specialized processors. And together, we'll be able to address a much, much larger TAM.
Okay, so Matt, congratulations. I know this is a really big deal, and I've followed your company for many, many years, and you did tell me over and over again, look, you would be part of the future of AI, which is now obviously is coronated. I want to know whether you have customers, and you've got some big hyperscaler customers, that will be thrilled that they get a chance to be able to kind of get away from who they've necessarily been trapped with.
Well, I wouldn't call it trapped. I think customers are going to be very excited about this. I mean, what customers are looking for, Jim, is flexibility. They're looking for technology innovation. They're looking for their partners to actually work together to drive a very robust ecosystem. And I think that's really what we see from the Marvell side is we have key strengths in interconnect technology, silicon photonics, custom silicon. But then NVIDIA, and as Jensen mentioned, they're not just a GPU company. This is an asset-rich company, right, with key networking IP, NICs, DPUs, CPUs, interconnect, rack scale. So these are all things that now Marvell, together with NVIDIA, can provide. We can drive interoperability, we can drive complete solutions, and we can enable customer choice. So I think it's going to be a win for everybody.
And Jim, there's really a couple of major specialized semi-custom chip players out there. And both of them have a large installation of NVIDIA architecture now. And so both of them have large installations of NVLink. They use the standard chassis that NVIDIA provides, the Grace Blackwell chassis. And so all of this can be extended. In the future, these data centers will have, GPUs, and they have some specialized XPUs on their side, but they have the benefit of connecting all of it with NVLink, connecting all of it with Spectrum X. They could add NVIDIA Vera CPUs to their racks. They could add NVIDIA's storage processors, Bluefield 4, to their rack. And they could even add NVIDIA LPXs, the Grok chips, to their racks. And so all of this will be system architecture compatible. It'll be ecosystem compatible. And it expands the opportunity, makes it easier for them to interoperate, and makes it fantastic for us as we expand our TAM.
Let's talk about the TAM and how big it is. Matt, one of the things that you taught me is, everybody, there's room for everybody. And in some ways, people might say, well, you're now competing with NVIDIA. Obviously, when you get $2 billion, I don't think it's much of a competition. But can you talk about the size of the market? Because I think people right now, particularly with the stocks really getting hurt, I don't want to emphasize the stock too much, but maybe people are thinking that maybe the TAM isn't as big and maybe the whole thing is just kind of a wonder that is not necessarily going to be economic long term.
Yeah, let me give you some thoughts on that, and I'll have Jensen chime in as well. But I'm going to bring up a story, okay? When Jensen and I started collaborating, which goes back probably 5 or 6 years, maybe longer, okay? The two companies have been working together for some time. we had a discussion once, and it was about how people typically look at the semiconductor market. People typically look at it as a zero-sum game. One's here, one wins, one loses, and it's just all nets to zero. And that happens in part of the semiconductor market. And what you actually said to me was companies like NVIDIA and Marvell, we create the market. We create the TAM. Okay, and so if you look at over the last 5-6 years, look at the explosion in the AI TAM. That's been led by NVIDIA and also followed up by companies like Marvell and others. But this partnership is, again, a move that we're making to keep increasing the overall TAM and then letting both companies actually participate more richly in there. And I mean, you can comment on it, but the TAM, per gigawatt is just in the deca-billion-dollar range at this point.
Yeah, the part that most people miss is the whole nature of AI. The processing of the software is all done in real time. Basically, it's a generative form of computing. The way we used to do computing in the past, you would retrieve pre-recorded information from, typed in by humans. But now AI generates content and generates information in real time. This inflection point, this platform shift, where all enterprise software in the future, every single character you see on your display, every piece of information that is produced has to be generated in real time. And so all future enterprise software will come along with it what we call tokens. These tokens are going to be manufactured, produced, processed by the infrastructure that we create. And so the multiple trillions of dollars of enterprise software is now in transition into a token-enhanced enterprise software world. In the future, the multiple trillions of dollars of enterprise spend will all be token-enhanced. And so this is what everybody is chasing. Now, the moment of now is really important because 2 years ago, we had the ChatGPT moment where consumers had the benefit of enjoying AI for the first time. But now, with Claude Code and OpenAI Codex, we're now seeing the agentic moment of that enterprise software. We now have the killer app of enterprise computing, finally. And it's being adopted here, of course, inside NVIDIA. The adoption is incredible. You're hearing news, of course, of Anthropic growing some incredible number of billions of dollars in just a month. This is now the inflection point of enterprise AI arriving. And all of that computing has to be done in real time. And that's what this infrastructure is designed to do.
So Jensen, it's David. So listening to you then, I mean, are we even able to calculate what the TAM may be? I mean, you mentioned Anthropic's exponential increase in revenues. What we're seeing is sort of something we've never seen. Is it just endless? I don't know. I'm just curious, having listened to what you just said, trying to understand what that means.
The simple logic is this. Today, most enterprise software is 90% gross margin. It's basically software licensing. In the future, enterprise software will be larger than it is now, much larger. And it's very likely that their gross margins will be lower because it will be enhanced with tokens. And so if you look at Anthropic's gross margins as a software company, call it 50% gross margins, but it's much, much larger as a company because their opportunity is substantially larger than a software company. And so the enterprise IT industry in the future will likely be, pick your favorite number, but several $1 trillion at 50% gross margins instead of $1 trillion at 90% gross margin. And so this is a great inflection point for the enterprise world. If you look at all of the enterprise software companies today, pick your favorite ones, they're all going to be agentic. Every single one of them is working on agents at the moment. They're all going to be agentic. Their gross margins will be lower, but their TAM's going to be much, much higher.
Jensen, if I could just follow up on, your decision to invest $2 billion in Marvell follows significant stakes that you hold in companies such as Intel and CoreWeave and Nebius, and I could go on. It's a small overall number in terms of the size of your company, but nonetheless, I'm curious as to why you choose to make an investment along with every one of these announcements.
Every one of these announcements, as you see, is an expansion of our ecosystem. our partnership with CoreWeave is obviously extremely unique. They're basically 100% top to bottom, end-to-end NVIDIA, and they're expanding our ecosystem. In the case of Marvell, our partnership is to expand the NVIDIA AI ecosystem in the data center as it pertains to semi-custom ASICs. Whenever they do a semi-custom ASIC, we now connect it to NVLink. It connects to the entire NVIDIA ecosystem as a result of that. We are also expanding our partnership to extend the AI infrastructure out of the cloud data centers and out into the world's telecommunications AI base station network. The future telecommunication network, today's telecommunication network, is essentially a dumb pipe, dumb wireless pipe. In the future, just like we did with cloud computing, we're going to turn the AI base stations into a part of the AI infrastructure. And so we're going to be able to run AI models right inside the base stations in the future. Telecommunications and base stations is a core part of the business that Marvell and Matt has built over the years. We're now going to connect NVLink to that so that we extend the NVIDIA ecosystem all the way out into the base stations. Really exciting future growth opportunity.
And that's why you wanted to own $2 billion worth of stock?
Well, Marvell is a marvelous investment. I've been dying to say that. And so this partnership is about extending NVIDIA's AI ecosystem and NVIDIA's AI architecture. And so this investment is really a fantastic investment for us. We're going to, of course, we're also smart investors. We've expanded the TAM for both of us as a result of this partnership. And we want to be an investor in that. We want to have a stake in that future.
Hey, Matt, can you help contextualize the news, given just the news of the day, this commodity price shock we're living with, the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, whether or not that's going to interrupt any kind of demand or whether some of these commodity shortages will inhibit production around the world somehow?
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Good to see you. Demand continues to be very strong. We had our best quarterly earnings ever last quarter. Strong momentum coming out of that. We've guided our data center business to keep growing like 40+% a year for the next couple of years. I don't see that changing at all. I think certainly there's a wall of worry out there with a lot of the things going on in the world. I heard you guys talking earlier about multiples compressing and things like that, but from our standpoint, we are not slowing down at all on the R&D investment. We don't see any slowdown from our customers on their intent to deploy. So that all looks extremely positive. And, really appreciate the vote of confidence from Jensen and the team. This, Marvell was already growing very strongly. I mean, we grew like 44% last year. We have another big year ahead of us this year. This just helps turbocharge our growth and our opportunity and gives us an infusion of capital that actually allows us to go do that. So we were doing great on our own, but this is a way for Marvell to actually just really take a leap forward. And as Jensen mentioned, I totally agree. This inflection on what you're seeing in the enterprise and really the accelerated build out of the AI factories, that gets Marvell into that in a much bigger way and really at the rack scale level now, not just selling individual components, but how do we go in together with a broader solution? And we don't have all the pieces. We can do that with NVIDIA. And in some cases, NVIDIA doesn't have all the pieces. So that's how we can get it together.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I like these deals that Jensen does is because it immediately actually ends up raising the earnings per share estimates. People looking for $5.30 for the calendar year 2027. That seems ridiculously low after what we've just heard, Matt. Why not take those numbers up right now? This is a method of distribution on our network that you can do it.
Hey, Jim, you know how I run this company. I've been doing this for 10 years now. Consistent, methodical, okay, one quarter at a time, and show consistent results. So,
all right, so
like already in the last quarter, like we signaled for the year we would be up at. But yes, I think it certainly is a great setup for next year, Jim.
Perfect. And Jensen, GTC, obviously one of the most important events, so many great things. Are you not surprised to some degree that the marketplace doesn't seem to see what you and I see?
Yeah, I I think the market misses several things about NVIDIA. I think of course, because we are such a large company and we have such a large position of AI computing and all the AI infrastructure, a lot of people might think that all of our growth is all priced in. However, what is very clear is several things happened this last several months, in fact, maybe the last 6 months. We gained share. How is it possible that we're gaining share at a position that we're so large? We didn't have Anthropic exposure previously to this year, and now we're scaling with Anthropic. Our growth in AWS is accelerating. We just announced they're going to buy 1 million GPUs from NVIDIA in just about a year and a half or so. And so that's an enormous number of new GPUs. The number of customers outside of the clouds, the top 5 cloud service providers, has now grown to 40% of our company's business. Most people think that most of our business is in the cloud, but in fact, one of the fastest growing segments is outside of the enterprise, the industrial. The announcements we made with Lilly, our autonomous vehicle work, all of the physical AI and robotic systems, the number of those applications is growing incredibly because AI is diffusing into all of the world's enterprise, industrials, every single industry, and every single country. And none of that is covered because we spend so much time thinking about the Mag 7, the Mag 6, that, because it consumes so much of the attention, people forget the rest of the world is incredibly large. And so that segment is growing incredibly large for us, now represents about 40% of our total business. And so I think a lot of people don't see the bigger picture of what's happening because of the attention we put into the top 7s. But the fact of the matter is we're growing, we're taking share, we're growing into new segments.
Okay, congratulations to both of you gentlemen. Great to see you again, Jensen and Matt. $2 billion and